A question of hygiene. The GBS outbreak in Pune reveals the fragility of its urban systems. At the heart of current Guillain-Barré syndrome outbreak in Pune, where over 1,000 cases of suspected GBS has been recorded, is a bacterial infection. A health investigation has revealed Campylobacter jejuni, a bacteria found in contaminated food and water, to be behind the first cluster of cases. In almost all the patient's recent case history has shown the episodes of gastroenteritis, vomiting, diarrhea, and nausea before the onset of characteristic peripheral numbing of GBS, leading to paralysis. One case of death due to suspected GBS has been recorded of a patient who has visited Pune. This outbreak reveals the fragility of scaffolding that urban systems are built on, with pathogens managing to breach all the safety nets that humans have built for themselves to emerge them and cause havoc. Any slip up in the maintenance or in surveillance clearly leads to discomfort, ill health, or debility for a large number of people. GBS is a neurological disorder rare autoimmune neurological disorder in which person's immune system launches an attack on the peripheral nervous system. Autoimmune neurological disorder where a person's immune system launches an attack on the peripheral nervous system leading to tingling, weakening of muscles, numbing and paralysis in arms and legs, not unlike in the acute flaccid paralysis or polio. It can be caused by viral or bacterial pre-infections. As per the WHO, globally it is estimated that GBS has an incidence of 1 to 2 per 1 lakh population and is predominant among adult males. While India-specific large epidemiological studies are lacking, as testing for GBS is a resource-poor setting is difficult. According to WHO report, it is estimated that 138 casualties was seen annually in 7 major teaching hospitals, with approximately 75% of cases occurring in adults. While studies of the world have shown numbers to rise in seasons of weather change, it is possible that this is India's largest outbreak in recorded history. Patients are treated with plasma exchange or intravenous in immunoglobulin therapy and most recover. However, these treatments are most effective if started within 2 weeks of the first symptoms, making early detection and initiation of treatment absolutely crucial. Rapid response teams in Pune are in place, collecting water samples and mounting surveillance on the community, and a central team has been rushed to affected areas. It is key to ensure that all measures are in place to pick up patients and to initiate treatment as soon as possible. It is the duty of the local and state governance to provide clean drinking water to all residents and ensure that adequate social messaging is provided periodically on avoiding contaminated unhygienic food. Mining politics strategic need for tungsten must be balanced against ecological concerns by annulling the Nayaka tungsten block auction in Madurai. Nayakarra Nayakarpatti tungsten block in Madurai. The union government has halted protest against the project that was red flagged, partly by the state, citing that environmental and cultural concerns. Rarely has the Narendra Modi government made a swift U-turn in the face of opposition. Nagarpati was among the 8 critical and strategic mineral blocks put up for auction last February by Mines Ministry. 8 months later, the contract for mining 2,000 hectares were awarded to Vedanta Hindustan Zinc Limited. Vedanta's Hindustan Zinc Limited, however, the presence of Aritapatti, Tamil Nadu's first biodiversity heritage site, Tamil Nadu's first biodiversity heritage site in the vicinity, triggered concerns. An assembly resolution pointed out that mining could endanger historical cave temples, Jain symbols, Tamil Brahmi scripts, and a habitat for rare species. The center and the BJP were initially on the defensive, arguing that of 20 square kilometer area, only 1.93 square kilometer within Aritapatti and Meenakshipuram villages had been notified as a biodiversity site. Last month, the ministry deferred issuance of letter of intent to the bidder and asked the Geological Survey of India to explore redefining the boundaries by excluding the biodiversity site. But the center annulled the auction before the GSI could act after a meeting by the community leaders from Madurai, led by BJP State President K. Malai and the Mines Minister. BJP politics seems to have played a larger role than India's strategic need for tungsten, or the center and states' claims that they were acted in defense to people's wishes. Tungsten or wolfram, a dense lustrous metal, is crucial for industries such as defense and in high technology fields. It has no effective substitutes. Globally, tungsten is stockpiled indigenously rare. Only 5% of tungsten mining resources are in Tamil Nadu, Haryana, Uttarakhand, and West Bengal, with rest distributed in Karnataka and Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, and Maharashtra. Though the state has flagged the biodiversity issue to the center, there is no clear indication that the DMK government was openly opposed to the auction. Reports suggest that prior to the amendment of Mines and Minerals Act, which empowered the central to exclusively auction mining leases for critical minerals, the state's Natural Resources Department had requested permission to mine tungsten and molybdenum through joint ventures. Regardless, regardless of the political dynamics, the importance and scarcity of tungsten cannot be overstated. The center might have been more effective had it consulted the state and waited for the GSI's report before making a decision, striking a balance between environmental concerns and the strategic need for tungsten mining by adjusting the block boundaries. The budget pipeline and India's foreign policy ambitions. When the union budget is presented every year, most of the public attention often centers on taxation, infrastructure, and defense. In this, however, budget for India's Ministry of External Affairs deserves a closer scrutiny. Last year, the MEA budget saw a rare 23% spike, up from the modest 4% annual increase between 2017 and 2023. Despite efficient budget utilization exceeding 90% of the revised estimates, MEA remains one of the least funded ministries. The MEA's allocation not only reflects the government foreign policy priorities but also its capacity to deliver on its global ambitions and commitments. The vision of Viksit Bharat hinges on sustained global partnerships. The vision of Viksit Bharat hinges on sustained global partnerships. Here, India is positioning itself as a global leader, from leading the global south, strengthening ties with Asian nations, enhancing regional connectivity, engaging with Quad, and creating institutions such as International Solar Alliance and CDRI. Partner countries also expect more from India, requiring a stronger MEA. Countries anticipate timely project delivery, financial support, and diplomatic follow-through. Yet the MEA's current budget, just 0.4% of the overall expenditure, falls short to deliver on these plans. In 2022, the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs suggested raising this to 1% of the total budget. While such an increase, approximately 63%, seems unlikely, even a gradual increase to 0.6% or 0.8% would signal intent. Two areas demand greater budgetary resources to beef up India's diplomatic clout, economic tools for regional integration and cooperation, and MEA's institutional capacity by expanding human resources and research expertise. India's regional connectivity faced new challenges in 2024, including Bangladesh's regime change, Myanmar's instability strained with ties with Nepal and the Maldives. India outstands, but visits by Sri Lanka's president and Bhutan's prime minister bolsters bolstered commitments in cross-border projects. sustaining momentum under the Neighborhood First policy requires economic support and China's growing influence. Enhanced financial backing is crucial for advancing connectivity initiatives in South Asia. Budgetary trends reveal nuanced shifts. India's aid to foreign countries declined by 10% in 24-25, while loans to foreign governments increased by 29%. Approximately 50% of grants is directed to the neighborhood. Bhutan remains the largest recipient of Indian aid, reflecting historical ties and new impetus on energy interdependence, including hydropower development and sub-regional grid connectivity. Aid to Bangladesh declined from 200 crore in 23-24 to 120 crore in 24-25, while Sri Lanka saw 63% increase in budgetary allocation. A notable shift in the move from outright grants to lines of credit, with 45% of LOCs directed to neighborhood. Bangladesh being the largest recipient of $7.686 billion. The LOCs enable sustainable infrastructure financing. They also demand robust disbursement and oversight mechanisms, stretching India's diplomatic machinery. Another critical indicator is MEA's resources to build institutional capacity. These are less visible but critical catalysts to enable long-term growth, including a stronger Indian foreign service supported by expert research ecosystem. While MES training budget saw 30% increase, overall capacity building allocations remain insufficient. The IFS remains a chronically understaffed diplomatic corps. Coordination challenges, delayed expansion plans, and limited lateral entry efforts hinder progress. Last year, MEA's budget allocation for its foreign missions, training programs, and cultural diplomacy grew only by 7%, but key academic institutions such as Nalanda University and South Asian University experienced cuts of 20-22% respectively. While MEA has invested massively in convening international conferences and dialogues to foster India's image as a bridging and augmentative power, it must also find more budgetary resources to support policy relevant and evidence based research at Indian universities and think tanks. According to External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Track 1 has been consistently ahead of Track 2 when it comes to diplomacy, foreign policy, and keeping up with the world. If this is the reality and needs change, as the minister beckoned, the MEA could lead by example by allocating specific resources in the next budget to accelerate the declassification and the digitization of hundreds and thousands of its records. Public e-access will help scholars map India's rich diplomatic history, contest deeply held myths, and get a better grasp of the underappreciated context and constraints that regulate Track 1 decision making. According to External Affairs Minister, Track 1 has been consistently ahead of Track 2 when it comes to diplomacy, foreign policy, and keeping up with the world. If this is the reality and needs change, as Minister Bricken, the MEA could lead by example by allocating specific resources in the next budget to accelerate the declassification and digitization of hundreds and thousands of its records. Public e-access will help scholars map India's rich diplomatic history and consistent deeply held myths and get a better grasp of the underappreciated context and constraints that regulate track 1 decision making, and in turn such track 2 research may also help MEA decision makers to learn from past successes and failures, avoid reinventing the wheel, and articulate India's uniqueness based on the power of historical record. Citizenship by birth. If there is no citizenship in India, there is no citizenship by birth, but the largest number of immigrants who have claimed citizenship by birth in the United States are unfortunately Indians who are wanting to do so because of the material advantages. This may not be the right thing to do. That way, US President Donald Trump was right in passing the order cancelling the citizenship by birth, which has been stayed by federal court by 2 weeks. Mr. Trump may not be wrong when he says that he wants to improve the lot of Americans, but one is curious to see how he is going to explain not giving citizenship to large number of Mexicans who have been allowed to cross the border and have slogged for the American owners of vast estates, something which the ordinary American is not willing to do. It is to be seen how citizenship is denied to them and their children. It is obvious that America is following a policy that is not based on any high moral ground but one based on convenience. That apart, India should promise a better deal to its citizens, many of whom are compelled to go to America because of the unsatisfactory living conditions here. Tinctures in health. The article Getting Drunk on Homeopathy is misleading in certain places where the writers bring in point of tinctures and alcoholic hepatitis and also being incapable of cure. In practice, these are used in very small quantities, usually 10 to 15 drops. Approximately 1 ml is the usual dosage, which will not cause any adverse effects. There should be regulation as far as the unauthorized sale and consumption is concerned. All tinctures used in homeopathy are manufactured under the guidelines of Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of India or HPI, which are proven and verified for efficacy. I have homeopathic medicines for various diseases such as BP, burning sensations in the feet, and stomach trouble. I have never got intoxicated. Allopathic medicine, if taken continuously, has side effects. In Kerala, there are a number of people who like homeopathic medicines. The writers seem to have split an enormous amount of legal acumen in an attempt to argue that people get drunk if they have homeopathic medicine of alcoholic tinctures with 12% alcohol in a bottle of 30 ml, all because of lack of proper regulation. As a person who has depended on homeopathic preparations for the past 50 years, I feel the learned writers would have gathered some glory for their public concern had they known that the laws of drug regulation are different from the laws of homeopathic medicine. Alas, their prejudice got the better of their legal scholarship. The US's immigration blocks as a self-defeating path. What do we see in the bustling corridors of Silicon Valley, the research labs of Boston, and biotech hubs of San Diego? Skilled immigrants do not just fill jobs, they create them. They launch startups, file patents, and drive innovations, expanding the very foundation of American employment. However, to understand this, we need to challenge our most basic assumptions about how labor markets work in knowledge economies. The debate over H-1B visas in the United States seems to hinge on a seemingly very intuitive argument that restricting skilled immigration will translate into more jobs for native workers. On the contrary, extensive research has shown that this approach is flawed and, in fact, counterproductive to innovation and job creation. So, this is a very compelling argument. A study in the Britta Glennon found that in response to increasing H-1B visa restrictions, American companies do not typically hire more US workers. Instead, they just accelerate foreign hiring. This might seem like an unforeseen consequence, but faced with visa restrictions, it is not entirely unthinkable that they will turn to countries with large pools of skilled workers. India and China. The numbers are very significant. A decrease of 1% in the initial employment from the H-1B supply could have impact in terms of foreign affiliate growth rate between 10 and 20%. And it is not just replacement hires. Entire teams and operations could move overseas. For every 10 H-1B positions denied, US multinational firms hire an average of 8 foreign workers abroad. Other research shows that each H-1B visa holder creates 1.83 additional jobs for native-born American workers over the next 7 years. Immigrant-founded companies in the US have historically attracted significant investment, creating jobs at higher rates than native founded firms. Research by the National Foundation of American Policy shows that more than half of America's billion-dollar startups have been started by immigrants. More than half of America's billion-dollar startups have been started by immigrants. The argument that H-1B workers suppress wages also does not hold up to scrutiny. Research by Giovanni Perry and colleagues have shown that native wages actually rise when foreign science, technology, engineering, and mathematics workers are hired. By increasing productivity and innovation, particularly in technical fields. Aggregating at the national level, foreign STEM workers flowing in may account for 30% to 50% of the aggregate productivity growth and 4% to 8% of the skill based productivity growth. Another report by American Immigration Council challenges the widespread idea that H-1B workers earn low wages than their US counterparts and therefore negatively affect wage growth. For instance, it shows that median wages for H-1B workers was more than double that of general US workforce in 2021. Another report by American Immigration Council challenges the widespread idea that H-1B workers earn lower wages than the US counterparts and therefore negatively affect wage growth. For instance, it shows that median age for H-1B worker was more than double that of general US workforce in 2021, and between 2003 and 2021 it rose by 52% while wages for all US workers grew by 39%. Recent studies have shown that knowledge spillovers and productivity gains from high skilled immigration actually increase native wages when companies do not face hurdles in hiring the talent they need. They expand operations domestically, which in turn creates opportunities for everyone. A study in the Journal of Labor Economics found that 10% increase in foreign STEM workers lead to 0.5 to 0.6% rise in native wages and a 0.3 to 0.7% increase in patents per capita. Research by Jennifer Hunt shows that 1% increase in immigrant college graduates in population 1% increase in immigrant college graduates in the population causes patients per capita to increase by 9 to 18%. Cities with higher concentrations of H-1B workers, such as Silicon Valley, have become global innovation hubs. Up to 71% of tech workers in Silicon Valley are foreign born, says a report restricting this talent flows, risk undermining the very foundation of America's technological leadership. By some estimates, by some estimates, India receives around 70% of H-1B visas annually. This phenomena, earlier considered to be a brain drain, is now being looked as a brain circulation, since the experience of these Indians receive since the experience these Indians receive abroad has significantly bolstered India's tech sector and innovation ecosystem. Skilled migration benefits both sending and receiving countries. Skilled migration benefits both receiving and sending countries. Today's world is highly interconnected. Competition is for both global talent and future innovation hubs. Canada's success in attracting tech companies through its liberal immigration policies offers a stark warning. When the US restricts skilled immigration, it does not protect jobs, it exports them. What is the solution? Blanket restrictions will not work. We need nuanced immigration policies that emphasize on complementary relationship between foreign talent and domestic job creation, while also protecting against abuse. The H-1B visa regime therefore needs not less flexibility Visa caps should be adjusted to reflect market demands. Current fixed caps create artificial scarcity. This restricts the ability of American companies to scale and thereby reduce potential job creation. Recognizing the importance of skilled immigration, fast-tracking processing mechanisms should be put in place for critical skills, providing dedicated pathways for entrepreneurs who can drive innovation and job creation. Opportunities for permanent residency for STEM graduates, which allow for seamless transitions for foreign students trained in US universities, will help in this endeavor. And finally, labor market modernization is the need of the hour. Transparent wage determinations and real time analytics to match skills with opportunities will go a long way in matching demand and supply seamlessly. While the H-1B debate in America unfolds, India needs to be ready to transform its relationship with skilled migration, not merely as a talent exporter, but as a dynamic participant in global innovation networks where outward mobility generates inward flow of knowledge, capital, and innovation. This transformation will ultimately rest on three pillars. First, talent is not about building walls but about creating magnetic poles of innovation. India needs more specialized innovation clusters with global standards, tax incentives, research grants. Second, India needs to switch gear from playing catch up to the setting new paradigms and creating new global standards. India's TAC and UPI stand out as shining examples. Third is the cultivation of true innovation ecosystem that supports risk taking and experimentation. A startup visa program, for instance, could attract global entrepreneurs. Implementation requires maintaining a delicate balance between short term wins, like streamlined OCI processes and pension portability agreements, and long term transformation, such as automated talent mobility systems, such as joint research funding, shared patent applications, and technology transfer agreements. The core principle to remember is that talent mobility is not a zero sum game. Substantive equality in child marriage laws. In Sanjay Chaudhary versus Gooden 2024, the Allahabad High Court annulled the marriage of a couple who got married when the man was 12 and the woman was 9 under the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006. While the man had filed a petition for divorce when he was 20 years, 10 months, and 20 days old, he later amended his plea for nullification of the marriage under Section 3 of the PCMA. This allows any party who got married as a child to seek annulment of marriage as long as the petition is filed within 2 years of attaining majority. While Child and Prevention of Child Marriage Act means a girl below 18 years of and boy below 21 years of age, under the Majority Act 1875, the majority is attained on completing the age of 18 years without any distinction between men and women. A literal reading of the provisions of PCMA thus suggests that both male and female parties can seek annulment before they attain 20 years of age. The question that arises whether the male party can annul the marriage at 23 years or 20 years is due to gender based differences in minimum age of marriage. In 2011, Madras High Court T. Shivkumar versus the Inspector General of Police held that literal interpretation will create an unfair disadvantage for males married at 20 who, despite being married below the legal age, would not be able to annul their marriage, and thus interpreted the age limit for annulment of males to be 23. Now, the Allahabad High Court in Sanjay Chaudhary has countered this by reasoning that male parties entered into a marriage after attaining 18 years cannot claim ignorance of law or incapacity, as a male above 18 years is criminalized under PCMA for marrying a female child. The Allahabad High Court noted the difference in the minimum age of marriage stems from patriarchal notions that expects men to be older and financially responsible in a marriage, while women are perceived as secondary partners and childbearers. It opined that having the same age limit 20 years to file a nullity petition is aligned with the principles of gender equality. Despite these observations, Allahabad High Court felt bound by the Supreme Court observation in Independent Thought versus Union of India, which mentioned that men could file annulment petitions till the age of 23 years. Consequently, Allahabad High Court annulled the child marriage, and the wife aggrieved by this ruling has appealed before the Supreme Court. While the Supreme Court will decide the age limit for boys and men to file nullity petitions, under the PCMA, the High Court's reasoning strides at a gendered assumption that may require re-examining the legal age for marriage. In Independent Thought, the issue before Supreme Court was constitutionality of marital rape exception in respect of wives below 18 years, and not the age limit for filing a nullity petition under PCMA. Its observation that a male child can get the marriage annulled before the age of 23 years was made without examining in detail the annulment under PCMA. This interpretation results in substantive unfair disadvantage, giving males more time than the females to exit a child marriage, leaving wives unprotected and disproportionately affected, which undermines the central objective of the Prevention of Child Marriage Act to protect and advance the status of women. A case for no difference. This case exemplifies the need for an uniform age of marriage in India, but raising it to 21 was proposed in the now lapsed Prohibition of Child Marriage Amendment Bill 21 to delay pregnancy and marriage and advance women's education and health will do more harm than good. Indian laws recognize 18 as the age at which all major civil and political rights take effect, such as voting, buying and selling property, and entering into contracts, among others. To delay the civil right to enter into marriage and blur the distinction between adults and children would deprive adults between 18-20 years to their right of life, liberty, decisional autonomy, privacy, and dignity. 24 studies said, uh, based on 174 PCMA judgment from 3 states, 49% of these marriages were self-initiated, with the girls' families lodging complaints in the 88% of these cases, as opposed to families reporting it in only 30% of arranged or forced marriages. Raising the age of marriage will further extend the state and parental control over the agency of marriage women to be with the partner of their choice. It will also place them at a greater risk of deprivation of social protection and health services, as they may fear criminal repercussions if their child marriage is reported. It results in more arrest, detention, breakdown of families, and institutionalization of young people at a significant socio-economic health cost and overburden the criminal justice system. Gender equality and improved health maternal outcomes can be better achieved through less restrictive and more substantive alternatives, such as access to free and compulsory education till 18 years, social security schemes, barrier free access to health services, and comprehensive sexuality education. This is an opportunity to examine the injustice in women's education, access to annulment arising from different ages for marriage, consider an increase in the time limit for seeking annulment and prescribe 18 as the uniform age for marriage for all genders. A case of troubled waters. Godavra Banakar Chirkla project. Godavari Banakar Chirkla. Government school children lead recovery in basic skills. Private ones lack. The closure of schools during COVID-19 pandemic is significantly impacted by the ability of rural school children to divide three-digit numbers and read a paragraph in regional language. Latest data from 24 published in the annual Status of Education Report Rural broadly classified that rural school children have largely recovered from the learning loss experienced during the pandemic. However, the recovery appears uneven when the data are analyzed in detail. Congress asks if status quo has been restored at LAC. It is unclear if Indian troops can access the areas that have broken out of Bounds post May 2020 says Congress, as it results, questions the timing of announcement to normalize ties between India and China. Quoting Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi, who had remarked, "We want to go back to the status quo of April 2020. That thereafter, we will be looking at disengagement, de-escalation, normal management of the LAC." Yet, successive statements by MEA cast doubt on whether we have returned to the status quo. He also recalled External Jaishankar's statement in Parliament. "In the few other places where friction occurred in 2020, temporary and limited measures were implemented based on local conditions to prevent further friction." Waqf panel asked government to bring in new law to protect tribal lands. In a 655-page long draft report circulated less than 24 hours before the panel's final meeting on Wednesday, Parliament's Joint Committee on Waqf Amendment Bill 24 has urged the government to introduce a law to protect tribal land from being declared a Waqf property. Panel in its report claimed that it has recently noticed numerous cases concerning declaration of Waqf land in tribal areas. This, the report said, creates a serious threat to existence of these cultural minorities whose religious practices are distinct and do not follow those prescribed under Islam. The increase in quantum of land acquired by Waqf board and the number of litigation underscore the urgent need to address this serious concern. The report does not provide clarity on the number of complaints that the panel received on the issue of number of such cases it had looked into. The report, per sources, has directed the government to ensure that protection accorded to scheduled tribes and tribal lands under 5th schedule and 6th schedule must be upheld, and any threat perceived or real needs to be addressed. Choice of secular inheritance law should apply to all faiths. So Chief Justice of India observed orally that freedom to become non-believer and choose to be governed by secular inheritance law of the country must apply across faiths. Chief Justice's observation came while hearing a petition filed by Kerala-based women Safia PM, who said although born as Muslim, she was now a non-believer and wished to be governed by secular statutes like Indian Succession Act rather than Sharia law. If it is to apply to one faith, it must apply to all faith, Chief Justice Khanna, who was heading the bench, said. The CJI at one point observed that under the Hindu Succession Act, if you convert, your inheritance is taken away. If you convert, you lose your right to inheritance. Solicitor General appearing for the Union of India said one could still inherit through the will irrespective of restrictions in the Hindu Succession Act. ASA study shows post-COVID recovery, but many students still lag in reading arithmetic. DeepSeek AI model jolts global tech landscape. The impact reverberated across global markets as tech and AI stocks plummeted. Though the sell-off studied on Tuesday, the low-cost Chinese AI model continues to be popular globally. Commenting on the development from China, US President Donald Trump said, "The release of DeepSeek AI from Chinese company must be a wake-up call for our industries as we need to be laser-focused on competing to win." Mr. Trump said DeepSeek was a positive development for the US tech industry as they will be doing that too and won't be spending that much to get the same results. DeepSeek's flagship AI assistant, powered by its DeepSeek V3 model, has already made significant waves by dethroning OpenAI's ChatGPT as the highest rated free app on Apple App Store. This achievement signals a potential turning point in competition between US and Chinese AI firms. In a recent paper, DeepSeek revealed that training of its DeepSeek V3 model cost under 6 million, utilizing NVIDIA's 800 chips, dramatically undercutting the billions of dollars spent by leading US firms. Company also claimed its latest DeepSeek R1 model is nearly 50 times cheaper to operate than OpenAI's GPT-4 for a specific task. The emergence of DeepSeek is were particularly noteworthy because it flips the narrative that Chinese AI models lag behind US counterparts. While China's early attempts at creating a local alternative to ChatGPT, such as Baidu's Ernie Bot, were met with widespread disappointment due to quality gap. DeepSeek has changed the game by offering models that rival the best firm from Silicon Valley. Despite the buzz, DeepSeek has faced a share of skepticism. Some experts have questioned the true cost of developing and training DeepSeek models, with some analysts casting doubt on the 5.58 million figure provided by the company for the V3 model's computing power. Others have raised concern about the startup's access to cutting-edge NVIDIA chips, claiming that company may have up to 50,000 NVIDIA H100s chips restricted for sale to Chinese firm under the US export controls. DeepSeek has yet to address these claims. Moreover, cybersecurity experts have noted that it is critical to engage with DeepSeek with a degree of caution as the startup operates within a regulatory environment where government oversight of data is stringent. DeepSeek was founded in 23 in Hangzhou by Liang Wenfeng, co-founder of Chinese quantitative hedge fund HireFlyer. The fund, known for its involvement in AI research and development, has played a key role in DeepSeek's growth. The exact extent of HireFlyer's financial backing remains unclear. Sri Lankan Navy fires Indian boat, 2 injured, and Modi likely to visit US to deepen ties. Well, they mean us harm, but they basically want to make their country good. China is a tremendous tariff maker, and India, Brazil, so other many other countries. But we are not going to let that happen any longer because we are not. We are going to put America first, Mr. Trump said. The Trump administration held the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting on Jan 21 following the swearing-in ceremony in Washington D.C. that was attended by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. The leadership summit of the Quad grouping is expected to in the coming months, which will help in India this time. Trump administration has zeroed in on immigration, H-1B visas and tariffs that are of great relevance to India's interest in relation to Washington D.C. Immigration, H-1B visa and tariffs. So that's all. See you in the next one.